Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be going over a comparison video of two pen light combos. The O Pen 2 made by Olight and the Refyne P1 titanium pen. Let's start out with the O Pen 2 since it's newer. This is made out of anodized aluminum. It features a oshram P LED emitter with a diffused plastic reflector here, or cover rather, and it is button activated instead of twist activated. It's got a 110 milliamp hour battery inside. The four modes on the light part are, starting with Moonlight mode, which is 5 lumens, which goes for approximately 10 hours. We have low mode, which is 20 lumens for 2 hours and 20 minutes. We have medium mode, which is 60 lumens for 50 minutes. And then finally we have 120 lumens for 20 minutes. This does have a pocket clip on it. It's a little bit bigger and deeper than the removable pocket clip on the Refyne P1. You can access the charging via a USB-C port for this light right here. And you'll see an indication on the LED portion showing up as red, and when it's finished it will turn off, and that's how you know this is finished. It does have an included O-ring on the threaded side here. Both pens have an L-style bolt activation. They both have a good resistance and smoothness to them. They both use refillable ink cartridges, which you can remove via the front parts of the pen here. And they both have O-rings on the threads on their front removable tips as well. Now, one of the differences is in the size and the weight. The Olight is about 5.7 inches. And we're looking at about 38 grams or 1.34 ounces with a thickness of 2.7 millimeters or roughly 0.45 inches. The Refyne P1 is going to be 1.7 ounces or 48 grams. It's not made out of aluminum, it's made out of grade 5 titanium. This is the polished version. They do sell it in a bead matte blast version as well. The other difference is this uses a Cree XPG2 emitter, and it only has 2 modes, which you activate via the turn switch. The low mode is going to be about 9 lumens for about approximately 3 hours and 20 minutes on this particular type of 10180 battery inside, and it also goes up to 130 lumens for about 15 minutes. To access the charging port, just like the Olight, you have to remove a part of the pen here. We're removing the head part, which then exposes the micro USB cable, not a USB-C. So it's a little bit different in terms of cable management. And in the top part here, there's an LED that turns red when it's charging, and then it turns blue or green, depending on which model you have, the later model or the earlier model, when it's charged. It does have an O-ring over here as well to keep the water sealed in. This is an IPX7 rated light compartment here. Another main difference on here is that it uses removable batteries. As mentioned earlier, there's a 10180 battery in here. So to access the battery compartment, you can remove that, and we have a 10180 battery here. And also included with an O-ring on the threaded side here as well. Now, much like the Olight O Pen 2, you can also remove the lighting element of the pen off this pen here by simply turning and twisting and disconnecting. It does have locking beads inside of here, and a magnet that goes with the magnet inside the P1 pen as well to keep it from falling out in case it gets twisted off. So you can use this as a separate light entity and a pen while you're writing. You can view, much like the O Pen Olight 2. Or the Olight O Pen 2. It's kind of hard to say that a lot, but I like the Refyne P1. It's just a simpler way of naming a pen. Moving on to the L bolt action here. It functions just like the Olight, although in a slightly different orientation. And then it has a smaller ink cartridge inside, which you can remove and access via a front tip here, which does have an O-ring on it as well. One difference between the lights is that there's a deficiency with the ink cartridge on the O Pen 2, and there's no deficiency when water hits the Lamy M22F cartridge inside the Refyne P1. I forget what the cartridge number is for the Olight O Pen 2, but I'll put that in the description for you. Another difference we can see here is the pen thickness and size. I'd much rather have a longer pen to clip on the Olight. However, since this one's removable, you might be able to find another clip that you can clip onto this pen here. In terms of weight, you're looking at 1.7 ounces or 48 grams for the Refyne P1 pen. So it's a little bit heavier, 10 grams heavier than the Olight. And the dimensions, as mentioned earlier, this is a 4.65 inches or 118 millimeters, I believe, and 0.55 thickness. I believe that's not including the pocket clips with these lights here. So it's a little bit thicker and heavier than the Olight O Pen 2, but it's shorter. Okay, we're shooting at an aperture of 4.5 at 50 frames per second, 3000 temperature rating, and ISO 320 on a Panasonic GH2. I'm going to start with the Olight O Pen 2. This is on Moonlight mode at 5 lumens, about 6 inches above the table. This is 20 lumens. This is 60 lumens. And this is 120 lumens. I'm going to reset the light. And this is the Oshram P emitter inside the O Pen 2 here with a textured cover. Let's start with the Refyne P1 now. I'm going to go to low mode. This is the Cree XPG 2 emitter, and about 6 inches above the table at 9 lumens. This is 130 lumens. Again, this has a smooth reflector and a smooth, clear cover as well. Let's get some final thoughts on the two pens here and which one I would choose out of both of them. In terms of the UI and usability, I would have to give it to the O Pen 2. I like the idea of having more modes of brightness levels so I can adapt to the field and make maximum use in terms of duration and light output. In terms of battery, compartmentalization and interchangeability, modulability, I'll have to give it to the Refyne P1 with a 10180 battery compartment there. You can take it out. The O Pen 2, you cannot do that. In terms of the pocket clips on both lights, I'll have to give it to the O Pen 2 for having a slightly bigger pocket clip. Although with the Refyne P1, you can remove it potentially and find another clip to put onto this pen as well. In terms of the ability to recharge batteries, it's about an even draw. One uses USB-C, the other one uses a USB micro. You can find an equal amount of cables out there for either charging systems. In terms of the activation part, i.e. how you turn on the light, I'll give it to the O Pen 2. I personally like button operated lights as opposed to turn twist operated lights. In terms of the activation of the writing cartridges, they both have L-bolt style activations. This one has a little bit more resistance to it, but I personally find that a little bit better as opposed to the Olight, but it's an even draw in my opinion. In terms of the material made versus price point, they're both about $50. I'd have to go about the getting the grade 5 titanium over the hard anodized aluminum. In terms of the weight, though, the Olight wins because it's 10 grams lighter. In terms of the size, that's more of a subjective area as well. I personally like smaller pens like this, the P1, over the Olight. It's a little bit easier to fit in your pocket and into spaces, even though it's thicker though and slightly heavier, and it has less space for a cartridge. In terms of the ink cartridges themselves, I have to give it to the Refyne P1 using a Lamy M22F black ink rollerball type cartridge, which is waterproof. I haven't noticed any leaks with this when it gets wet. The Olight cartridge, I forget the exact number cartridge model number inside, but it does have issues of being leaking when it gets wet. So Olight knows about this issue, and they are seeking to address it as far as I understand. I haven't seen anything in my email about it, but we'll see in the future. So I'll have to give it to the Refyne P1. In terms of accessing the cartridge compartments, they're both even because you can just unscrew the top portions of each one. They both have O-rings and pretty good threads to hang on to the front. That's an even draw to me, in my opinion. Overall, I think I'd probably go for the same price point with the titanium material of a pen, because titanium is a good material, especially grade 5 titanium over hard anodized aluminum, and I like the idea of having an interchangeable battery system. One thing I will note in terms of the disconnecting part, separation of the Refyne P1, I think this could use a little bit more work. I'm not a fan of magnets, but I understand why they used it in the system. I think they could drop the magnets to save some weight and refine the locking mechanism inside the pen for a further updated model. In terms of these two pens, what I would like to see either in an O Pen 3 or Refyne P2 would be the UI option, along with a personal preference of mine of a push button system in a format of the Refyne P1. I would like to see that, or in an O Pen 3 made into titanium with a 10180 battery compartment and better ink cartridge, default ink cartridge coming with the pen there. Other than that, I think they're both fine lights. I would choose the Refyne P1 over the Olight O Pen 2, but only just slightly. It's a very close subjective matchup in my opinion. They're both fine pens. They both work very well for what they do, and I use them both in different types of EDC kits that I carry depending on the situation. And that is my overview comparison, in my opinion, on these two fine pen lights. Thanks for watching.